This is Twit.
So I should preface and say that friend of the show, Mike Wolfson, who has been on many, many times. Usually Mike comes on either right before or right after Google I/O, but I think usually right before. He's like our I/O preview prediction sort of guest, and we absolutely love him. He was the one that kind of got this ball rolling for bringing you both on. So first of all, big thanks to Mike for making that happen and being like, I think this needs to happen. But he also kind of provided some questions. So again, thanks to Mike because he was like, I just really want to hear them answer some of these questions. So some of these questions are from Mike. One of his questions was if developers are looking for some sort of a high impact win when it comes to these APIs, what should they be looking toward? What is something that a developer can look toward and be like, you know what, and maybe it doesn't take much effort, but it just makes all the difference? What would you say?
Okay, I'd say Kotlin. It would be my first thing I thought of when you say that.
How convenient.
Yeah, well, Kotlin is a new programming language from JetBrains, and we've had, amazing adoption of it, but some folks haven't. So if you haven't checked it out yet, I'd say it's really worth the investment. I mean, there's a switching cost, obviously, we understand that. But once you kind of cross that chasm, like, you're so much more productive and happier that I think that's the biggest benefit I could ever recommend. If you're not using it, then you should. And also, it's going to be a precursor for a lot of the kind of cool newer stuff we're working on. So Jetpack Compose, for example, is something we started talking about at Google I/O, which is entirely built on top of Kotlin. So I'd say, like, now is the time to convert if you haven't yet.
Yeah, we've actually said that here at I/O, we announced that we're going Kotlin first.
Mm-hmm. So explain that.
I was going to say, we've talked, for the past, I feel like it's been a couple of years now that Kotlin's been knocking around, and it's kind of, for those of us who aren't on the developer side, I know Kotlin is really important because I've dug into it a little and understand what it does for developers, and why it makes it, that much more preferable. But now we're starting to hear Kotlin First. And so for those who don't know and haven't heard that term, basically, what does Kotlin First mean, and what does it mean for the development community?
Yeah, so especially because we've seen that developers are so productive and happy, we decided that, okay, then Kotlin should be the way to go with Android. So from now, for example, a lot of APIs became Kotlin friendly. But then apart from this, some new libraries like the Compose that Nick mentioned before, but also some existing libraries are now written in Kotlin completely. So this means that as developers, we strongly encourage you to adopt Kotlin in your app. Similarly, when we're talking about things like sample code, you'll see these in Kotlin from now on. Mm-hmm. On our official documentation, while you still see Kotlin and Java together, Kotlin will be the first language showing up there in the pane, in the sample pane. Yeah.
And it's about, we really recognize this as the future. So it's kind of a new set of assumptions. So Compose, for example, is entirely built on things that we can do in Kotlin that we weren't able to do beforehand. So it's like an embracing of that fact and saying that, this is the, productive future that we want, that we can make better APIs for our developers using this language. So we're going to fully embrace it.
But when we do this, it's like, we're not going to tell you, go start using Kotlin just like that, but we're also trying to help developers learn Kotlin. So we're doing this in multiple ways. So both through, we have a series of articles or talks to help you learn Kotlin, but we also did, together with JetBrains, a series of events called Kotlin Everywhere. So with this, we are supporting the community to organize Kotlin Everywhere events, where they can teach Kotlin or how to build different things in Kotlin, either in Android or cloud or backend or whatever, everywhere. Because Kotlin can be used everywhere. Yeah, and hopefully with that we can help developers also make that step towards Kotlin easier.
It comes off slightly cult-like, to be honest.
The Kotlin cult.
Once you write it, I go back to trying to write Java programming language, and I find myself kind of tripping over. Like, I have to write all these words I didn't have to write. I feel like I'm kind of like carrying a weight around.
Yeah, it's either cult-like or freeing and enabling. I don't know. Pick your poison.
Yeah, I think it's probably the latter, and that's probably why each and every year Kotlin comes up at a conference like Google I/O and seems to get like the most audience response. And and I think that kind of ties in with what AndDev Summit is probably all about. Seems to be all about Google I/O and what you guys do on a regular basis, which is lowering the barriers for developers so that they can produce great apps or great experiences for Android much easier. And that's kind of like the definition, from my understanding, of what Kotlin is all about. It just really seems to make it that much easier, and that's why people are so excited about it.
Yeah, I think the Kotlin tagline is modern and pragmatic language, and that really resonates with me. Like, it gives you like all the latest kind of like programming techniques you can use, but in a really pragmatic way. It isn't too kind of like theoretical or anything like that. It really helps you to be productive, and that's what we want for Android developers. We want them to be happy and productive.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of obviously positives to taking on Kotlin, but what are maybe some downsides with kind of going behind Kotlin, saying like, here, this is what we would really have y'all migrate to?
I think the downside would be the fact that the Kotlin language brings a lot of features that are only available in Kotlin. So, for example, you can use coroutines. And then if you try to use that from a Java code base, that's not really friendly. So this means that to take advantage of some of these APIs, you would need to migrate more and more of your code to Kotlin. And we do know that this isn't hard, but it's something that's time consuming. So I think that would be the downside.
The one I would call out that we hear loud and clear from our developer audience is build times can be a little bit slower, but the team is hard at work. This is like literally like the biggest thing we are working on for resolving this problem, to make it, like we say, we want to make developers productive. So that includes the time it takes to actually build their code into applications.